All right. Welcome, welcome.
What's going
Here we
on?
go. Nick, rocking the
Luis,
Portland jersey.
that's right. Letter O, Damian Lillard back for one night only.
Rest
And
in peace.
was it a
Rest in peace,
magical night
Damon.
or what? And a Trailblazers win? I don't know who saw that coming. I definitely didn't have Trailblazers money line that night, but wish I had. But really emotional return. And he's still not, I know this is not the topic of the day, but just an aside, Damian Lillard's not calling off the potential to come back to Portland, maybe at some point in
Really?
his career.
You think he's got that long of a career, huh? He could just jump back at some point.
Well, I don't know if you remember, like Dwayne Wade, he went off and played for Chicago,
That's
hometown,
true.
and then he came back to the Heat and he had his like retirement parade. So maybe something like that. I don't think it would make any difference in terms of winning the chip for Portland.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
That's not going to happen. But it was
Yeah,
nice to see big standing O the other night.
that's good. Portland, keeping it classy. Portland's keeping it classy.
Keeping it weird, keeping it classy. There's probably a few people who even realized that Portland had a basketball franchise whenever we started this, but now you know.
Yeah, a lot of people know. A lot of people know about the Blazers. Blazing Trails. Blazing Trails. So, for those who don't know, this is a sports podcast, and we also talk about gastronomy, our love of food and drinks and beverage. And we're just so excited to kind of be like two friends chit chatting about some of the things we love. And hopefully, you find the similar affinity to what we enjoy and are able to comment, feel like you can add to the conversation through socials, things of that nature. So just super excited to bring this to you. But we have an agenda. We're organized.
Yeah, and
Okay, we're
Luis, I don't want you
organized.
to undersell it. We are the number one sports, cruising, Disney, photography, learning design podcast.
Out there right now, when you factor in all those things together, we are number one. Now, a lot of people, no one is combining all those things.
And this is a
Um,
lesson for all the future podcasters. Just cut a huge swath of all interests that one could possibly have, and then you'll have sip, score, savor with your hosts, Nick and Luis.
savor, savor. Maybe we
So
introduce wine to the podcast, but I don't know if we'll make it through all the way. Don't know if we'll make it through all the way.
we got to get some
Oh,
socials to follow, folks. We'll plug those in a forthcoming episode so that you can add us on Twitter or X, whichever you prefer.
yeah.
You have to get an Instagram, get an email so that you can drop ideas for conversation that you want to hear us talk about. And yeah, shall we get into it?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Topic number one, icon of the seas. Huge, huge ass ship out there in Miami. Just landed, had its first, I think, legit cruise this past weekend. I think they did a test cruise. They're going through an actual legit cruise. Um, but I mean, this thing is gigantic. Have any
How
thoughts there, Nick?
gigantic is it?
Should have looked it up before.
Are we talking like we're not talking little dinghy out in the ocean. We're not even talking like average cruise ship. I think that this cruise ship eats other cruise ships for breakfast. It's that.
Yeah, yeah. So we're talking about capacity over 5,000, 5,600, right? So that's a lot of people on a cruise ship. 364 meters, almost 365 meters, uh, about 1,200 feet lengthwise. So, I mean, a lot of people have referred it to a floating city. We're talking about it because both Nick and I are fans of cruising. We enjoy it. We enjoy the experience, and this is kind of an innovative ship that's coming out there that might change the game or revert back. But I feel like Royal's always trying to push the elements as far as bigger and better.
Absolutely. Also, a ton of amenities. And I went on mute for a moment. Probably Luis is like, what is he doing? but I wanted to pull up a cruise size comparison chart, and Luis, the host, has disabled my screen share. But
Nice.
imagine there is a chart on the
I'm gonna.
screen
We're doing it. We're doing it. Give me a second. Give me a second here. Just
on the fly.
on the flyer. We're doing it live. We're doing it live. Fuck it. We'll do it live. Now I'm realizing I'm cursing. There's gonna have to be an explicit
Yeah.
symbol.
Once you cross over, it's like you can't go back. Once you say the first word, you're like, ah, geez. At least it's only like one button that you need to press to put the little E next to your title. Sorry, we are not role models.
Yeah.
Icon of the Seas, right? Is not the biggest,
Oh
as you
my goodness. Well, look at those. Well, that's the crazy thing. So Icon is in Miami, but Utopia and Star of the Seas are currently in production. Like I think they're close to being done as well. So as soon as Icon comes out, it comes with two other sister ships that are going to beat it in size. That's crazy. I
and also
forgot
I
about that.
can't read numbers because the top three are the exact same, but for whatever reason, it's not even in alphabetical order. Star was listed first, and then Utopia, and then Icon, but they are all the same size. Coming in, the shooting guard from Miami, Florida, at 250,800 gross tons. Icon, icon of the seas.
Yeah, you have been watching NBA games.
That was my that was my intro. The
Yeah.
biggest ship I've been on, just to tie into my previous Royal Caribbean experience, I think was the Oasis of the Seas. That I'm sure of it. That was the biggest because Wonder, Harmony, Symphony, they're in their own class. No, they're all together in the same class. Anyway, Luis, tell us a bit more about your experience with the Royal Caribbean line.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it dates back to it was my first cruise was when I was 13 years old as a family cruise. So a little later than some. Some people started really young. I know Nick started his cruising career as a young toddler, infant. I don't even know how old enough to drown in a pool, almost drown in a pool. Um, uh, but it was Sovereign of the Seas at 13. And of course, that ship is no longer in production. I actually think, or no longer sailing. And it might actually still be sailing under a different name by a different brand, because that's what kind of happens. Like people buy some of the older ships and repurpose and rebrand. But Sovereign of the Seas. And I fell in love with it. But I didn't get to cruise again until I was in charge of my own funds and had a career as an instructional designer just beginning. And it was a friend cruise. So a bunch of friends got on a ship and it was a blast. And then that led to just a few months later wanting to get on another one. And that got us into the Allure of the Seas, which is that Oasis level, which is that kind of category before of huge ships that came out of Royal. And of course, it eventually led me to work at Royal for a bit, less than a year, less than a year. So there's no conflict of interest. I am no longer an employee of Royal Caribbean, so I get no benefit from
Not a
sharing my.
sponsor.
Yeah, not a sponsor,
But if
no
you're
benefit.
listening, Royal,
Yeah, you could be. You could. We love your ships. We love. Anyway, it's such a great feeling of just being able to see the ocean at the same time, have all these luxuries and comforts, and not having to think about anything. Travel can be logistical. It can be stressful, especially if you're trying to maximize it. And I think the beautiful thing about cruising, it's not the stereotypes of people. I think the true benefit of cruising is gaining that peace of mind in a very stressful environment when you're working hard, you're taking care of your family, you have all these responsibilities. When you want a vacation, you want to turn that mind off. And I feel like cruising is a great way to do that.
absolutely. Rapid fire question for you, my friend.
Yeah.
You can only have one of these things on a cruise. And in this scenario, the other things, I'm going to tell you three things that are typical of a cruise. And you can only pick one to keep. Okay, ready?
Okay. Yeah.
One, the buffet, 2, the casino, and 3, the pool deck. So 3 integral things to the cruising experience, but you can only have one. Which one do you keep and why?
That's tough. Because honestly, so I definitely get rid of the casino. The casino is a non-issue. I know they make money off of the casino, so maybe as a CEO, I think differently. But as a guest, I find it as
Mhm.
a complete waste of space. Always smells like cigarettes. It's just like, why? Why? You know, we have cities and casinos in Florida that people can visit. So I'm not a big fan of the casinos. And I'm also not a huge fan of, so you're not going to get me to really love the pool deck. I'm not a huge pool deck person. But I live in South Florida. I have a pool, so when I go in a pool, I want my own pool. My own pool is always better than this universal pool. Um,
Mhm.
and so I realize I'm sort of privileged that way. And then the buffet can be, if it's a good buffet, that's what I'd keep. Like a solid, and Windjammer is the name of the buffet in Royal. So sometimes it's a hit or miss, but on the newer ships, they tend to like the food products and diversity of food products, just really good, really good. I did read a review that apparently for the testing cruise, they even had filet mignon and lobster at the buffet. I don't think they're
Ooh,
gonna, don't think they're gonna have that regularly,
yum
but
yum yum.
can you
That's
imagine?
really, really tough question to answer. I'm with you where I believe as well the casino, like you can go in many states to a casino locally and they're pretty much are all the same. It's not going to be any different just because it's floating. Anyway, if anything, people are just drunker and maybe even more obnoxious and spending way more money on the cruise. But the pool deck and the buffet, those are the tough ones to choose between. I have had poor buffet experience because, like, firstly, if you make quantity of food for that level of buffet, sometimes the quality suffers. But even if it is like really hitting someday,
Yeah,
but at like the peak time, lunchtime, let's say, you can't find a seat. So your food that you got hot from the buffet is now completely cold by the time that you've actually found a place to sit down and enjoy it.
yeah.
Um, so that's my gripe against the buffet. And then for all the reasons that you said about the pool deck, I'm not a Florida guy.
Yeah,
So the pool and that Caribbean sun, that vitamin D, I need it. I crave it. Don't get a lot of it. But yeah, man, it all comes down to like what you want in a vacation. Obnoxious guests
yeah.
that are probably, you know, not to get TMI, but they're peeing in that pool at least, and lots of drinking going on. So yeah, I don't ever
It's
go in the water.
yeah, it's interesting. So, but I can get that the pool deck because it's also like there's music, there's party, the bars there tend to be a little bit
Hmm.
more tropical feel. And it's important element to have because it's open air. So you actually feel like you're on the deck of a ship. You need it to feel like
Yeah.
you're on the deck of a ship. Uh, but it feels like a lot of cruises lately, like it's like as far as pool areas, it's not big. Like there's sort of small little square spaces, uh, but and then people get people get wild. People get wild on that deck. They fight for the little chairs, and they'll stay there all day. I'm not one of those people. I like exploring the ship. I like checking things out, participating in activities. I'm like an already retired person because I'll even go to bingo, like the bingo
Yeah,
games
man.
on board. Love that.
Me too. Bingo, trivia, just anything that's kind of different than your ordinary life, right?
Yeah,
Is definitely a nice escape. That being said, of those 3, I think I'm still keeping the pool deck and getting rid of the buffet.
I
That's
can
where I
see that.
stand.
I can
Keeping the
see
pool
that.
deck. Um, hey, I'm in my sort of curb your enthusiasm era. Uh, and this is kind of putting me in like a Larry David kind of mindset about the pool deck and laying towels out on the chairs in the morning before you even are actually in the pool or in the pool area. So what's the what's the etiquette there for you? Like, is there a time that's too early to put your towel out on a chair and thereby claim the seat at the pool? Or is it just like first come, first served?
I think actions like putting the towel on the chair, this is what I think turns people off from cruising, right? Like I get that we pay for a ticket for a cabin and we all in a way want to feel like it's collectively like our personal ship. But it's not, right? We it's still community. You still have to share it with other folks. And it just and I think that's a big reason why the pool deck is just not a spot you'll find me at too much on a cruise ship. Maybe, when we get to the port of call, just to look out the water, grab one of the tropical drinks and walk around. But I think it's an etiquette that's popular. So I'm not going to say, oh, like we should, because I would be sort of going against the grain of what you see most often on cruise ships, which is people reserving those chairs. I just think it's unnecessary. I don't like, I wish it wasn't a thing. I wish it wasn't a thing because, enjoy it while you have it. You're ready to move on with your day, go on. But these folks want to sort of hold these areas down for the whole day so they can come and go and still explore the ship. And it's just sort of like,
I'm with you. And what's the first thing that somebody who's claimed a seat by the pool early in the morning complains about whenever, they debrief on their cruise and they're like, "Oh, I really hated this aspect of the ship." What they're gonna say is they'll complain that it's too crowded near the pool when they don't, put two and two together and realize if I hadn't laid claim to this seat and that I wasn't actually using for all hours of the day, maybe the crowding situation, we see like people, they actually, uh, if you're familiar with cruises, you'll know that the buffets have outdoor seating, and
mm-hmm,
sometimes that outdoor seating looks upon a pool. So sometimes people just like post up in the buffet because they can't get a seat by the pool, and they use that as sort of like their home base to go to the pool, go to the buffet 16,
yeah,
17 times. Like,
yeah,
it's true. You go to the buffet a lot, but yeah, it's like a trickle down. But I'm hearing from what you told me the other day about the icon of the seas that the crowding isn't an issue so far, but maybe will
yes.
be.
So some of my initial reporting here, Nick,
Getting
is
sources.
getting sources here. I think that was the reasoning behind making this ship so big, is that it allows for there to be more spaces, more lounges, more chairs for folks to not feel that way. And although it has a higher capacity, it could fit almost 6,000 people, full ship. It's probably not going to feel like 6,000 people because there's so many different spaces and diversity of activities. They're going to keep people on their toes and keep people well dispersed. I actually think this is an important aspect that you might notice that some of the older ships haven't perfected. Um, you know, I had gone on a Disney cruise, which I'm a big Disney cruise fan. I think the food, even their buffet, it's just it feels and it tastes better than the buffets at Royal. I haven't cruised on Carnival or Norwegian, but it's coming soon. Uh, so I'm a big fan of Disney Cruise Line, but their older ships sort of separate the adult section,
Hmm.
right? And in not going to get into because we could talk about why there's adult sections on cruise ships and Disney Cruise in particular, but it was a waste of space because every time I walked by there, it was empty, even at night. So it crowded the rest of the sort of walkways and areas of activity on the ship because I guess at one point they thought that people would separate and it would be crowded in the adult section as well, but it didn't on my cruise. And so just kind of recognizing dispersal is really important. And some of those older pool decks are really not that good at that dispersal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Man, I need to go on another cruise. I'm realizing this is, I don't know if this is a testament to uh like how much my family loves cruises or how much we didn't like to do anything else vacation wise when I was a kid, but I'm 28 now and I tried to count it up last night how many cruises I've been on in my life, and I've almost reached the one cruise per year of my life number, like ratio. I think I'm at 30.
Oh,
So,
wow.
and I've stalled since I turned, I don't remember, 25 or something. So I'm almost at the end of an era, or maybe the
Did
start
you
of a new era of
did you
cruise
tr- did
ratio.
you track all those? Because are you like a super elite level on any cruise line?
No, that was probably a mistake, right? Like, but then
It's
again,
not too late. It's not too late. You can do it. Sometimes you can retroactively because they track your record unless you change your name.
yeah, no, that definitely know that we have, and these were all family cruises, and I've never gone on a singles cruise or a friends cruise, and uh,
Couples cruise.
or a couples cruise for that matter. And I know that I have some sort of captain's club status on like Norwegian, Carnival, Celebrity, probably even Royal Caribbean as well. Since I've been on a couple of those, but it's not been consolidated. It's not like if you're familiar with like airlines, you can be a mileage member for one airline, but it will be part of a larger consortium and you can use your miles across these different airlines. It's not like that in cruising, as far as I know. It's like Carnival has their miles, Norwegian has their miles, so on. So we've got a lot of different routes and a lot of different cruise lines, but we didn't settle on one that we would reap all the benefits for.
Interesting. All right. Well, more cruise conversations to come and travel conversations to come in general. But we got some sports dockets, right? We got
Do
some
we
sports
ever?
topics here. And leading off here, NCAA football. I know there's
Show
a
us the
Super
journey,
Bowl,
man. Show us the
but
journey.
what is the schedule for our two favorite football teams? So, full disclosure, UCF fan here. You can't tell if you're not watching the jersey. But then my wonderful friend here, Nick, speaking from your chest, who are you a fan of?
Those Demon Deacons of
Demon
Wake Forest
Deacons.
University, Demon Deacons,
So
one up our
both
schedule now.
both
Get
storied programs, multiple national titles. But the schedule is launched. So I know it feels just like yesterday the football season ended, but the schedules are back out for the next season. And realignment happened. So there's some new schedules. There's some new schools, playing each other. And for our two respective, beloved programs, they're playing a lot of new schools, new programs, part of this realignment in college football.
That's right. Everybody's 0-0 now, though, so anything can happen. Who should we
Anything
start
can
with? Should
happen.
we? I got Wake's
Yeah,
got
yeah.
Wake's schedule pulled up here. We can do a little prospectus, even though
Well,
it's way too early projection.
I want to know who's your favorite, or like what are some matchups that you're most looking forward to here for Wake Forest?
Love bye week. Bye week is uh,
Easy win.
easy
Easy.
win. No, I mean, we'll we'll start with Virginia. It's really rare, I think, to have. I believe they're still in conference. I think Virginia is still part of the ACC. It's rare
Yes.
to have it in conference so early on in the season. That'll likely be a night game. It's at home. Very hype. Virginia, not really a rival because kind of reserve the title rival for other in-state schools. And Winston-Salem is in North Carolina. If you've never heard of Wake Forest, but then we have our kind of SEC school matchup with Ole Miss. So it's been
Nice.
Vanderbilt for the past couple years. I'm excited to see how we stack up against some of the old guard SEC schools.
Yeah. It's always an opportunity. It's always an opportunity at this point to anytime another school plays an SEC team, I feel like you got some folks behind you. You
For
definitely have
sure.
some weight.
For sure. And obviously any wins like that are sort of above expectation when it becomes time to talk about bowls and which bowl a team might get into. And I don't know if I have expectations that we make it into bowls this year because the gauntlet of still, I think, pretty high quality ACC schools.
Mhm.
Uh, However, you'll notice, unlike the past 5, 6, 7 years, no Florida State on the schedule. So that's, I don't know if that has something to do with conference alignments, but
Mhm.
that's definitely advantageous for us. We never really line up well, but I'm looking forward to watching Stanford. That'll be away in Palo Alto, Cal at home. So we get a couple of those former Pac-12 schools. It's going to be great. Great year. And of course, the Dukies at home, fortunately. So that's always one we circle. Um,
The
yeah,
rivalry.
good looking schedule.
Not bad. Not bad. Interesting that it says Coral Gables for Miami because I know the football stadium is not in Coral Gables.
Was that where
Um,
is that where U of M is like located campus wise or
it is. It is. But the stadium itself is in Miami Lakes or Miami Gardens. Sorry, Miami
oh,
Gardens.
like the Hard Rock Stadium?
Yeah, it's the Hard Rock Stadium for the Dolphins. So, all right. Well, a lot of new schedules. I'd love to see Stanford and Cal there. And I hate to say it, but I feel like no FSU is a little bit of an omen of potentially things to come.
Of good things, I would hope, but we shall
No,
see.
no, I don't
Um,
think that.
for
I think
overall ACC football, like we uh, have we already lost FSU? Has that like put pen to paper? Like they're out.
I don't know. You talk to a lot of FSU fans. You know, I'm located in Florida. Uh, that definitely feels to be the sentiment they feel, or they're ready for that. So I can only imagine the boosters, the board. They're making plans. It might not be this year, maybe it's not next year, but it's I do think it's an inevitability uh, for them to go undefeated and not get in. They have to look at the fact that a lot of that was attributed to the conference they were in and the perceived weakness of that conference, which is a shame. I don't love those comparisons, but that's just kind of the world we're living in. And I think we'll continue to dwindle to just a few conferences that get to go to the dance. So speaking of which, I don't mean to be biased, but I feel like the Big 12 definitely has positioned itself as in the race to be one of those conferences to stay in the dance with the addition of a lot of those Pac 12 schools.
Agreed.
So, but I got to say, Wake Forest's schedule from the gate is tough. So if they win, if they're 3-0 by that bye,
Hmm.
then you really know where they're at, right? Then you know that you're in for an incredible season.
Yeah, I just
Uh,
want to have a sniff at it whenever it becomes time for proper ACC play. Nothing was like I think the peak of being a Wake Forest football fan was the year that we made into the ACC championship game. And with the general quality of the conference, if you're hanging in there, you're never kind of too far. There's some pretty good parity in the conference. Not last year because Florida State was far and above all the other teams, but usually
and
pretty
you know,
pretty close.
it's the parody that makes it fun.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen any given Saturday. Uh, so I am most excited as far as the schedule. We got a couple big matchups. Of course, it's cool to see Colorado on here, but the big matchup with the Gators on October 5th. I mean, every UCF fan's gonna circle this, and so are the Gators fans, by the way, because they lost against us in the Gasparilla Bowl in
Hmm.
Tampa a few years back. I think it was Gus Malzahn's first season as our head coach. They couldn't do it. They couldn't follow through, and UCF took advantage. And a lot of the excuses came in of, they just weren't motivated. They didn't really want to play. I don't believe any of that. But depending on what happens in this game, if we're able to come on top, then there is absolutely zero excuses about which team is one of the better teams in the state of Florida right now. right? A lot of history, the Gators, of course, but I think UCF has a lot going for it as a new innovative school.
Crazy
Cincinnati has
tough,
become a little. What happened?
crazy tough schedule. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's all over the place and crazy travel time. So if you look at it, we're at um, TCU, so that's already going to Dallas Fort Worth. We're at Iowa State, so flying out to Iowa, at West Virginia, and then at Arizona State. So we go all the way down to Arizona State. So it's a lot of back and forth, a lot of miles. Hopeful that the Knights can push it through. But I mean, it might be a tough schedule, but just the fact that they can win some of these games, like you don't understand when you're a group of five team, as soon as you lose one game, you feel like it's over. The
Season's
season,
over.
the
Yeah.
season's over. Last year was my first feeling of being able to just enjoy Saturdays and for the effort. Like they could get a W, they can get an upset, they can go 6-6, 7-5, 8-4, and they would get ranked at 8-4. If UCF goes 8-4 with this schedule, they'll be a ranked team.
Hmm.
You can't do that as a group of five school. And
Right.
so I feel like the benefit of Power Five, and I'm new to it, not as experienced as it with it as you are here, Nick, but it just makes it that much better this season because you feel like you don't have to give up on your team or get too upset when they lose. Uh, you get to focus on the next week. Well, what can they do? What can they learn the next week? Which makes it more exciting. I think if the expectation in the NFL was always winning out, I think it'd be pretty boring.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I love UCF. Why did they call it the bounce house? I was watching one of the amazing hype videos that
Mm.
UCF put out for their schedule release, and they kept referring to, I think they referred to their home stadium as the bounce house.
Yeah, shout out to UCF football Twitter. I think it's one of the best Twitter handles out there right now. I'm aging myself. It's not Twitter, it's X. It's got one of the best X handles out there. Worth checking out. Of course, infamous for their 2017 national championships sort of rep, which I believe in it. I believe in that natty. The Colby Matrix believes in that natty, so that's all we needed. If no computer system put us as national champions, I get it. But at least one did. And so call back to the BCS days. Anyway, I digress. The bounce house is called the bounce house. Really, it terrifies me because it should concern like construction people and like architecture people, but essentially it's that the stadium moves when people bounce on it, like when they stand
Ooh.
up and jump up and down. And then we have that Zombie Nation song, is the official UCF football chant and music, where we go
Yeah, so cool.
UCF Knights. Of course, everyone plays Zombie Nation at their stadium, but UCF has kind of embraced it as their own, and in some of my research, was one of the first schools to do that, to incorporate their school name into that song. So
Hmm.
it's become, I think, since the '90s at this point, it's become a theme. And then the students bounce, but the stadium, unfortunately and fortunately, because people seem to really enjoy it, it bounces when you're in the stadium. It bounces up and down. Apparently, structural folks and experts have come to the stadium to make sure that it's safe, and they keep reassuring the community it's a safe stadium. But it's
Big
a safe
knock on
stadium.
wood.
Yeah,
Big
it's a
knock on
safe
wood there.
it's a safe stadium until it's not. So, but it's fun and it's intimidating. So it might not be as big as some of the other stadiums out there, but because of that movement, it just players have commented, opposing players, it just gets loud. So a
Hmm.
lot of false starts get called, especially when our stadium is packed.
That's some really nice home field advantage. Wake doesn't have a song entrance, but you can look it up at home, folks. The Demon Deacon on a motorcycle is the open the gates tradition that we have is quite fun. But it's nothing like UCF has the zombie song you're saying, and I'm also reminded of Virginia Tech, who enter the field to enter Sandman, which yeah, if you have like a song for your team, like an
Yeah,
unofficial official anthem,
yeah,
so hype. It's so hype.
yeah, yeah. It's important. It's important to add. So really excited about this college football season. And I'm partial. I love the NFL, but I can definitely comfortably say that I enjoy college football a little bit more because it is a little bit more regional. It's a little bit more specific. It feels like, I went to UCF. There's this
Yeah.
sort of uh, like you're part of that. That's part of your institution. And you just don't always connect the same way with NFL teams or professional sports teams for that matter, in the same way you can with college sports. So
hmm
go Knights, charge on.
Go Deeks. Well, speaking of NFL football, should we discuss the number one news of this coming week?
We have to. We have to.
We couldn't really call ourselves a sports podcast if we didn't talk about Taylor Swift
Mm.
or the Super Bowl, if you
Yeah.
will, the
Yeah. I
Taylor
wasn't
Bowl.
expecting you to lead with Taylor. I wasn't expecting you to lead with Taylor,
Well,
but we're getting the hits.
that's what anybody wants to talk about is
Yeah.
will she make it for the game? To fill you in if you live under a rock and you don't get any sort of news or social media, Taylor Swift is going to be in Tokyo, Japan, the night before the Super Bowl, which is some date I should have had written down. But anyway, she's there. It's like it's the next day, like 10 hours ahead in Japan or something. I don't know. I've had this explained to me 10 times. Literally, my cat would understand it before I will, but she can, Taylor, that is, fly from Tokyo if she leaves at midnight, which they say that she probably could, given her concert. And then she could arrive in Las Vegas and be well rested and ready to sit in the box with Brittany Mahomes and do whatever it is they do. So now that
Amazing.
that's out of the way,
It's 13 hours, by the way. It's a 13-hour flight, which I'm imagining is not going to be 13 hours because that's with connection. Taylor Swift is not going to do a connecting flight. She's not
no,
even flying commercial.
no, she's going like what do they call those? Like a Corsair, like Learjet
Mhm.
speed. I don't, my
Yeah.
my knowledge of jets is poor, but one of the first things that I heard about whenever Travis and Taylor became a thing was just because of Taylor's global tour, she had been racking up a lot of CO2, constant flying. She had pretty bad pretty bad numbers in terms of her sustainability. And so people had this conspiracy theory at the beginning, which I thought was kind of interesting, that she went in the first game nationally televised that she was at where was the New York Jets Kansas City Chiefs game. And so people hypothesized that she just went to this Jets game for search engine optimization so that the when you type in uh, Taylor Swift and jet, you would typically get information about her private jet usage and the environmental impact. Then instead, you get Zach Wilson, Donna
Yeah.
Kelsey, and New York Jets and Taylor Swift. Um,
People go deep. People go deep in some of this, a little bit conspiracy, but I am not going to, this is not going to be anti-Taylor Swift podcast. Okay.
put your
This is
foot down.
absolutely, yeah, this is absolutely not an anti. I love her it's not even the new album, but the Midnight album, uh, Into a Hero. That song is just fire. That album is just fire.
hmm
So definitely not anti-Taylor. I actually think it's great for the NFL. As a girl dad, my daughter is about the Super Bowls, about some of the NFL games, knowing that Taylor Swift's a part of it. Like that is important. That's important. I
It
want
is
her to
huge.
I want her to get into sports and football. And so definitely no hate at all. I actually really, yeah, I think she's amazing. She's an economy onto herself. And and yeah, it's interesting because I feel like when you're that big, there's definitely a lot of folks, as much as there's a lot of love and appreciation for her art and what she brings to the table, there's just as many folks that have those stones that are ready to uncover. I think that's what's hard, right? It's the hard balance.
Yeah, nothing obviously opened this bit with my kind of exasperated take on how much there has been said about just like mundane aspects of her life, like her traveling between
Mhm.
Las Vegas and in Japan, which actually for majority, if not almost all people in the United States would be like amazing. But
Mhm.
to this in this situation, it's just like a hassle to be someone so super famous and get to travel and go around the world. So, um, but she's never appeared like she's, you know, above other people, ungrateful
No.
or like unaware of like the privilege that she has to like be in the position that she's in. And she does a lot of good too, right? You have to say she brings a lot of people together at a time right now when, I mean, there'll be a lot of people watching the Super Bowl. It'd be good to, you know, have that togetherness about something. So,
Yeah, there's not too many things that can really bring, and I know there's a lot, still plenty of Americans who don't care about the Super Bowl, don't care about football, and think it's
right.
barbaric or think, just a news flash, by the way, I do respect the science and the results of CTE, but at the end of the day, we're all adults and
Hmm.
we make decisions. There's a lot of high risk jobs um, with much less payout than the NFL that also have a mortality rate, that, you could occupationally die as a result. So sorry, folks. So totally full disclosure, I'm getting my internet changed to AT&T right now. So this is a high risk podcast where it just might shut down in the middle of it. So anyway, super interesting. But yeah, love Taylor, wonderful. Um, Super excited for the Super Bowl. 49ers, Kansas City Chiefs. It, two-story franchises. I'm not gonna lie. In the conference championship games, I was rooting for the Ravens and the Lions, just because those franchises, especially the Lions in particular, are in need of a Super Bowl chip. But needless to say, the 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs, I think, stack up really good with each other. Like it should be an exciting game. No blowouts.
Absolutely. I mean, that's all you can hope for, right? If your team is not in the Super Bowl, you just wish for a competitive game. And there's so much buildup. I I think that they start the broadcast at 2 o'clock that day and have like 4.5, 5 hours of build up to the game. So at that point, if you watch all of that, I don't know who does that, but if you are someone who watches all of it, Luis raises his hand for folks who are listening. Um, it does get you super hype. But then, I mean, I get flashbacks to last year and the dying minutes of that game, a pass interference call that, I mean, everybody has got their own opinion about it. Probably mine is that it should never have been thrown. And that that definitely swung the game. So uh, all I hope for again is that we get a good competitive game. Hopefully, not any of those storylines about the officials. I mean, the officials are part of the game, right? Luis, would you agree? Like, you you can't divorce them and from what actually happens on the field. And luck is always a part of any winning any championship. So the you can't say, gosh, the officials cost the Eagles that game. The Eagles started to crumble in the second half and let up a lot more points.
Yeah.
Uh, so they're definitely you make your own luck situations. But yeah, I just hope for a good competitive game, and if it's close enough for the officials to make a decision like that that actually has impact, then it must have been a good close game to begin with. So I have to say, very lucky for the past decade. Maybe besides that Seahawks Broncos Super Bowl, that was a mega blowout. There's been
Yeah.
lots of good competitive Super Bowls.
Yeah, and I think the tradition will continue. But Pat McCaffrey kind of created this argument. I believe it's Pat McCaffrey. Man, there's a lot of sports, and we're just adding to it. There's a lot of sports
McAfee?
talking
Are
heads.
we combating McAfee and Christian
Mac,
McCaffrey? I don't know what Pat
yeah,
McCaffrey.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I did. That's okay though. My
Pat
apologies.
McCaffrey is
Yeah,
actually Christian's father, and
yeah.
McCaffrey is just a cyborg, a simulation. No.
Wouldn't that be
Anyway,
crazy? No, Christian McCaffrey is on fire. I should never distinguish him. He is an entity unto himself. But anyway, the argument here is that the NFL should invest in full time reps, right? Like that this is a career. This isn't something just for older folks and retired folks. Like this is something that you build a crop of officials and train them like an academy, and there it's a full time job, and you have a full time slate of referees who travel the country, and to help alleviate any confusion, and that will help out a lot, right? Because I think,
mhm.
and there always be human error, and I think that's also what makes the game exciting. I don't want to like invalidate the beauty of human error. But there's replay, there's other things. Even soccer has sort of embraced getting it more accurate, right? And moving on from some of these mistakes that have happened in the past. So I don't know. Like I just bringing up that example of the refs, it can be kind of put a bad taste in your mouth for a long time. But then you could be the other team and it goes your way, and you're like, thank you, thank you. So it's so funny, the dualities of human emotion.
And if you're the team who's had to go their way, you feel like you deserved it. Like
Yeah,
if it's your team, you remember the four calls that went against you, and you feel like the karmic universe resets whenever you get that one call. So, and I'm sure that Chiefs fans maybe felt that way last year, and I know that I've felt that way earlier this year with the teams that I root for, knowing that they got a call in their favor that this shouldn't happen. I look back and I'm like, well, this is making up for what happened in 2018 whenever Kenny Pickett did a fake slide in the ACC championship game, which you definitely have to research that one. It's too long of a story for right
yeah.
now, but
Throwing in some random facts here,
yeah.
Brandon. I love it. But 49ers, Kansas City Chiefs, I think Mahomes is chasing greatness. I don't think there's much that could stop him. But Brock Purdy and those 49ers are also just incredibly impressive and fully stacked. And you just can't discount what they're going to be able to accomplish here matching up against the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's really a game of like who has destiny on their side, and there's something beautiful about that. I don't know if you have any picks or stars to watch in the game.
Ooh, making me go first. Okay. I think my bold prediction is Christian McCaffrey under 60 yards rushing, but still gets a touchdown. I'm not sure how bold that is. I'll go under. I don't want to go under 50. I'll stick to under 60 yards for Christian McCaffrey. I don't think he's a huge aspect of the game. I think that San Francisco will be forced to, and this is the Chiefs thing, is like all the good teams try to take away the number one option on the other team. And they're going to make Brock Purdy air it out. I think Super Bowl MVP Brandon Ayuk scores a couple of touchdowns, high scoring game, and yeah, 49ers win.
Oh wow, I didn't think it was going to go that route.
Well, yeah, all of my
It's
predictions, like I feel like I have, I don't know, more of like a feeling for what the 49ers can bring because of how they've been trending in the playoffs. I I mean, there are your surefire bets on the Chiefs side too. Travis Kelce over 100 yards, probably. Um, but after that, I just don't think that who's going to step up in
Yeah,
addition to Travis Kelce is a question that maybe you can make some money on if you're a betting person. But yeah,
yeah.
I feel good about the 49ers and all around can't count out George Kittle making a big impact.
Mm,
There's so many
yeah,
weapons, so many
yeah,
weapons.
yeah. It does feel like, just you kind of going through the list, and you missed one person who's back and showed some flashes in the last game for the 49ers, and that's Debo
I know.
Samuels.
I love you some
And
Debo.
I mean, as an athlete, as a football player, he's just a game changer. And there's been so many times I've watched him play, and I'm like, he can position him anywhere. And then just incredibly fast, but incredibly strong too, like at the same time. And then, because we talk about George Kittle, you talk about the tight end position. I feel like the tight end position is all about height and strength. And, sometimes you get them out in the open, they're able to score a touchdown, but they can't usually outrun people, right? They're just overpowering most of the time. But I feel like Devo can do it all. He can also just outpace most people. So I'm so glad to see him back from injury. He showed some flashes in the last game that I think hopefully are stepping stones for him to be fully healthy, because I think he's a superstar. But you mentioned Ayuk also had a great season this year, also a superstar. So it just feels like the 49ers are stacked, but there's been plenty of times where you have the stacked team, quote unquote, not make it against really a more experienced team. Not that they're exactly like the Patriots, because I think Andy Reid is a fun coach. I think Bill,
Andy
Bill,
Reid has a personality.
yeah, Andy Reid has a personality. He has fun. Like his players love him with emotion, right? With emotion. I'm not saying people didn't
hmm
love the players didn't love Belichick, but with emotion, people love Andy Reid, and I could see he really loves his guys. And so, but there's experience there, right? They've done it before, and they know what it takes. And I just feel like the Super Bowl is different, right? It's so calculating. It's really
hmm
play by play, yard by yard. You're taking the game in, and you're having to make constant adjustments because it's got to be all left out there. I mean, you could say, oh, well, the one and done, the playoff games have been like that. But for a lot of players, this is it, think this is your mecca. This is your highest achievement. And I think having been there a couple of times and still make it back, think about how many teams have gone to the Super Bowl just like the Chiefs, maybe won one, lost one, and never gone back. Seahawks. You,
hmm
there's no guarantee that you're going back, but the Chiefs have made it back, even without Tyreek Hill, who set the world on fire this past season. So I I think you're spot on with the talent is on the 49ers, right? I think they have everything it takes to have this be their Super Bowl. And Brock
hmm
Purdy is a solid, if not up and coming superstar caliber, dare I say, superstar caliber quarterback. Mr. Irrelevant was a sixth round, seventh round pick. I don't even know, was he undrafted?
last possible pick, right? So
Yeah. So Mr. Irrelevant, and there's a beautiful story there. But Patrick Mahomes just figures out a way to win. And if I see that same connection that he had these past few games with Travis Kelce, I think it's just hard to stop him, right? They're sort of gonna be like, you think maybe San Francisco goes out to an early lead, but you just can't let up, and you got to keep sludging around because they'll find a way to get back. And so that'll be my predictions. I think San Francisco might lead early on, get super hyped, super excited, but maybe take their foot off the gas. And I do think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to find a way to win tactically, strategically. They're going to find the gaps. They're going to find the opportunities. They're going to know who they need to stop. And they're going to be maybe the more committed group, dare I say it, in the Super Bowl. So my prediction is that the Kansas City Chiefs will beat the 49ers.
Wow. So one on the 49ers side and another on the Chiefs side. Should be a good game. I really agree with you 100%. The Super Bowl is more like a game of chess than
Mhm.
any other football game. Like we haven't, I don't know, fully debrief. We don't have to get into like the NFC Championship and the AFC Championship and what happened there, but like the Detroit Lions get out to this huge start fast, then take their foot off the gas. That was their Super Bowl. Um, and they still, like you said, got a little bit out coached there at the end. Dan Campbell made some interesting decisions that, if they would have worked, he would have been a genius, and they didn't. And so now he has to answer for them. These things like that happen in the Super Bowl as well. So um, I think I'd like Kyle Shanahan to take care of business and not let maybe he can point to what happened last week as an example
Yeah.
of don't take your foot off the gas. Don't forget that it'll have to probably be a field position game at some certain points with how good these two defenses can be. So,
I
yeah.
don't want to discount this factor here. Let's get into personalities. Because Kyle Shanahan has a very serious personality on the sideline, right? Andy Reid, yeah, but you see the lovable teddy bear, right? Uh, but you see trust.
Hmm.
And one thing that I think will be a differentiator that maybe none of the talking heads will talk about is although Kyle Shanahan kind of said, yes, Brock Purdy, you're the guy. You're not paying him as the guy, and you don't have the same relationship with Purdy as the guy as Andy Reid has with Mahomes, as in an appropriate way to bring a quarterback into the game, right? He sat out the first year. He didn't have to play immediately. He got to see a more experienced quarterback in Alex Smith uh,
Yeah.
with success. So see the team be successful under Alex Smith and still have the tutelage so that when Andy Reid was ready to unleash Mahomes, he had some time to really watch and understand the game. And then you see, like, I just don't think, like, and that's why I think, by the way, that's why I think Jordan Love is going to be the real deal, is because a lot of people don't do that. They don't take the time with quarterbacks when they draft them to bring them up the right way. And so I think that's going to be a factor because I think trust matters a lot. And I feel like Kyle Shanahan gets upset. And I think you got to keep your emotions in check. You got to keep your cool. But ultimately, it's all the conversations we don't see. It's in
Yeah.
practice, it's in the room. It's like, how are you building bonds? Because it is going to war, a battle of yards. And you want to my philosophy, and I get that they don't, because Bill Belichick wasn't this, so but
Hmm.
you gotta love the man to the left and to the right of you as you go to battle on the gridiron. So I think that QB relationship is going to be a factor. I think Kyle Shanahan doesn't have the same type of relationship, the same positive relationship that Andy Reid has with Mahomes.
Yeah, definitely. I read that some of the suites, or pretty much all the suites at the Allegiant or whatever they call the Las Vegas stadium, are more expensive for the Super Bowl than Brock Purdy's contract. I mean, you can't knock Kyle Shanahan that they just found a diamond in the rough with Mr.
Yeah.
Irrelevant, and you don't have to pay that person's in a rookie contract in a similar way as a Patrick Mahomes. So I think Brock Purdy will get his. Um, but I know that earlier in this offseason, the offseason before this year, that if they had an opportunity to move on from Brock Purdy and get, I think, Tom Brady, they would have done that. So I think that's all past now. I think that 49ers need to see the body of work from these past
Mhm.
two playoff games. Brock Purdy didn't look fantastic, but very solid, can manage a game, can
Yeah.
put that ball between the 2 and the 3 in Christian McCaffrey's chest. Like I don't think that's going to be the answer in the Super Bowl, but just don't turn the ball over.
Don't turn the ball on. That's all it's about. So just to kind of wrap this wonderful conversation up, let's talk about food. Let's talk about Super Bowl food. What are you going to have in
My
front of you,
favorite
gang?
part.
What are you
My
going to have
favorite
in front
part.
of you? What are your top five Super Bowl foods? If you can only have five, table in
Yeah.
front of you, it's going to be.
Okay. Well, shall we go? Shall we alternate? I'll pick one and you pick one.
Sure,
So
we
give me
can do
time
that.
to think about my entire menu. And if you're gonna give me the first pick, I will definitely take buffalo chicken wings to start.
It's important.
And I like all the, if you're curious, I like all the side celery, carrot, blue cheese, ranch. I just love that it's so customizable too to your
Yeah.
taste. Perfect food for a Super Bowl.
You're including the celery in there. Nice.
Yeah, can I get the celery free? Or
Yeah, yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
if
No,
you
we're
had
getting that.
veggie tray, I will defer.
No, no, you get the celery. Blue cheese or ranch? Are you a blue cheese or ranch guy?
But personally, I lean more toward blue cheese, but
Me too.
I would
Me
do
too.
either.
Yeah, I'm not a big ranch person, but I do love blue cheese. We love blue cheese
Mm.
dip. So love it. Second favorite, and this is more personal because I make the guac myself, but chips and guac. I think it's super tasty, but it's also a great way to tell yourself like you're eating something relatively healthy. Because I chop up the tomatoes, the onions, and then smash the half avocados, aguacates, as we say in Spanish. But man, it just tastes so good and perfect with the lime. Use plenty of lime. So I think a go-to for sure is my homemade guacamole, which is, I mean, everyone should make homemade guacamole because it doesn't take very long to make. But I put a little sour cream in there, by the way. It's my secret. A little extra.
Ooh, well, no longer a secret now. I'm stealing that.
Yeah, you get that for free. So chips and guac.
Love it. And you kind of feel like you're eating salad, right? Uh,
Mm,
something that definitely doesn't feel like you're eating salad, but is actually can be counted as a vegetable in most public school lunchrooms. I'm talking pizza.
it's counted as a vegetable in public school
I kid you
classroom.
not. I kid you not. The tomatoes, the super highly processed tomato sauce on a lunchroom pizza counts as one serving of vegetable. And I don't know if it's in every state, but it's definitely holds true in my experience going to school
Wow.
and getting lunchroom food, pizza. But hopefully you're not eating cafeteria pizza during the Super Bowl and that you're
No.
actually eating some good quality pizza. Not and I feel really strongly about this. Not a good pizza on the Super Bowl. Save that for like date night. Save that for Valentine's Day. If you go out and you get a good like Neapolitan pizza, very fancy. You want something that's gonna, you know, help you absorb a couple beers. Gonna
Yeah.
help you, yeah, feel nice and greasy and terrible afterwards. That's what you want.
So are you going corporate with that pizza or still going to your local pizzeria?
If you have I mean, I'm all about if you've got a place local that you like, go for it. There's not really a big chain that I like a lot. So yeah,
Love it.
say go
Love it.
whatever
Yeah.
you like. Go with what you like.
Yeah. You got to support local. You got to support local. I love it. Next on my list here of top foods, we're making it down here. I probably have to go with because I do love pizza. Mini sandwiches,
Mm.
mini little grab and go sandwiches, right? So there's a theme here: chips and guac, mini sandwiches. But it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I feel like every time I eat, even though I'm absolutely going to have some buffalo wings, but every time I eat buffalo wings or pizza or have them both, I'm just full. I'm not going to grab it again. Whereas if I want to stay light, flow, maybe grab one little mini sandwich, a couple of chips and guac, and I'm still hanging out and I still have plenty of room for the servies. So
The
mini
Serbies.
mini sandwiches,
Sunday Serbies.
Sunday
Nothing like
serving.
nothing like
Serve.
having maybe one too many beers on a Sunday night.
Absolutely.
That's what the Super Bowl's for. Are we down to the last pick?
You know what? Let's do it. We're short on time. Let's make this the last piece on
Oh,
our
man.
collective table of Super Bowl food.
Jeez. I don't want to give an honorable mention to a couple here that could have been on this list for other people. I'm thinking nachos. We already have the chips and guac though, so that's kind of like my mind is not
Yeah.
going over into nacho territory. Buffalo chicken dip, a variation on buffalo chicken
Mhm.
wings, but obviously in dip form. Classic
Mhm.
Midwestern food, going back to my roots. If you call
Mhm.
Pittsburgh the Midwest,
It's not
I
the
digress.
Midwest. I do not think it's the Midwest, but
You'll die on that hill.
St. Louis
Um,
is the Midwest.
I'm gonna go with okay. This is controversial, maybe, and I think it might be a good time to end because you don't want to hear the booing from the fans. But I'm gonna go with pigs in a blanket, mini hot dogs wrapped in crescent
Oh my
rolls
God.
or pretzel. There are so many variations on this too, but poppable. That's what I like in a Super Bowl snack. One hand, I don't have to put down my servy. I'm just
Mhm.
like pop, dip, repeat, pop, dip,
Yeah,
on and on. Continue.
pigs in a
So
blanket.
pigs in a blanket has made it. What do you think of that
I,
pick, Reese?
I love it.
You
It's
gave it
definitely
to me,
not.
so you
It's not
can't
going to
say
be on
shit.
my table. No, no, it's definitely not going to be on my table. I'll tell you that. Pigs in a blanket, but I think those are all good choices. I definitely would still, if I went to your over to your house and we had pigs in a blanket, I'm still gonna go to town. I'm gonna enjoy those. It just wouldn't be my top five. But it might be some other folks, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I love the diversity on the plate here. Um, but yeah, that's it. That's our episode. Hopefully, everyone has a great Super Bowl Sunday and weekend, and we'll try to record these weekly for you all as sports progress and talk about different things as well. So, um, yeah. Any last words, Nick?
Thank you all so much and enjoy the games. Go Taylor.
All right. Go Swift. Right. That's the chant. Go Taylor, go Swift. All right. Appreciate you.
Bye.